Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. This week I begin my in-depth series of videos discussing campaign settings for 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons. Specifically, I'll be discussing the settings of Al-Qadim, Birthright, Dark Sun, Council of Worms, Forgotten Realms, Planescape, and Spelljammer. Why these specific settings? Because these are the ones that I own either the physical core book or the physical core box set for. And that's where I always keep my emphasis. While I might have PDFs of other settings, I'm not going to deal with them. I'm only going to deal with what I have physical copies of. With all that said, I'm starting the series talking about the Arabian Adventures of Al-Qadim, an Arabian Nights based setting. Zakhara, the Land of Fate, which is actually on the same world as the Forgotten Realms. But that's for another bit of discussion. The setting will have some issues with it today. It doesn't quite meet modern gaming sensibilities, and I will mention those things as I talk about this. But with that said, let's just go on, begin this discussion, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Before I begin, let me just say, if you like this video, please click like and subscribe down below. Leave comments, tell me what you like, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see me talk about more of in the future. Always looking for ways to help improve the channel, make it better. That said, let's just get right on into this, shall we? So, the land of Al-Qadim is different. It is a vast desert. To the north of the main Land of Fate is a vast sea. Along this sea are various seaport towns. There are some great rivers cutting their way through the deserts of the Land of Fate. And spotting all through it are oases. Some oases are actually large enough to support a small town, but those are rare, and none can support a city. But most of the oases are pretty much large enough just to be a stopping point for the wandering caravans. Now, the society of Zakhara is divided into two groups. The Al-Badia, the nomads who go from oasis to oasis, coming into the towns to trade for what they need or what excess they've gathered. And then you have the Al-Hadar, who are the city dwellers, the civilized people. The two groups have some major philosophical differences. The Al-Badia see the Al-Hadar as lazy and soft and as just a little bit better than slaves, while the Al-Badia see themselves as free, bending knee to no one, and the only thing between them and the gods is the gods. The Al-Hadar see the Al-Badia as crude, as less civilized, because the Al-Hadar, they live in these cities, they worship the gods in ornate mosques, they have everything they need and these ideologies really clash between them as groups. But Zakara has this philosophy of, when interacting with someone as an individual, the only question is he an honorable man? Is she an honorable woman? If so, then that person is good to interact with. Now, Zakara has a principle, fivefold principle of what people should and should not do. These actions are lumped under the philosophies of honor, family, hospitality, purity, and piety. And these are basically the key features of Zakaran's social interactions, how they view everything. Zakaran honor is basically what in D&D is considered good. A man keeps his word, he's generous, he's helps people, that sort of thing. The only two things that in the Al-Qadim setting are considered automatic death sentences are romantic impropriety and murder. And generally speaking, it's best if the family of the one who was wronged kills the murderer, and in the case of romantic impropriety, it's whoever was the bad person, their family kills them. Yeah. Like I said, there's some things in here that would never be published in a modern RPG. The setting does have some issues in its historical biases, shall we say. So let's just leave that part behind, shall we? Now, family is just that. A Zakaran person believes that their family is one of the most important things for them. They value large families because, one, they can help them with their work, but also it's just this whole idea that, family look out for each other, family defend each other, family protect the honor of each other, even if that means killing other family. And that's sort of the role family plays. Purity is the real hotbed here. This is the stereotypical reason why women are veiled or wear modest clothing, why women don't extend a hand in greeting to a man, etc., etc. It's something I'm going to leave alone. Let's just say it deals with the ideas of proper relations between the genders. And I mean by proper relations between the genders. Again, this is something that would never show up in a modern book, a modern RPG setting, just because it really goes against a lot of modern sensibilities. Which moves us to hospitality. Hospitality is a major thing. It's really when someone comes to your dwelling and asks for hospitality, you are expected to grant it. Even if that person is an enemy. And you are charged with watching over and defending your guests, protecting them from anything that might come after them. And a big thing with this is a ritual called the Bond of Salt, where basically you offer a guest salt. They take a taste of it, and for 3 days they cannot harm you, you cannot harm them. They are expected to leave at the end of the 3 days. They may not stay more than 3 days. And if they see your provisions are low, the guest is expected to leave at dawn, as soon as possible, unless your own family protests and makes them stay. It actually gave an example of the importance of the Bond of Salt in the story of a thief who broke into a house, found a box filled with a white powder that he thought was sugar. So he took a taste and found it was salt. And so left without stealing anything, because it would have violated hospitality, even though he broke into the house and was a thief and was a dishonorable person inherently. The Bond of Salt is so powerful, not even a thief would break it. And piety is just, you venerate your deities. Venerate the deities, worship them appropriately, yada yada yada. Which is generally a thing in any D&D setting. That, the gods are important because they actually do act in the world. Of course, with all that said, there are some unique options spawned in the world of Zakara, in the world of Al-Qadim. And that's what I'm going to talk about next. Something that was introduced in the Player's Handbook series, the Complete Fighter's Handbook, the Complete Priest's Handbook, the Complete Bard's Handbook, etc., etc., was the concept of kits. What a kit is it's, you have your class, fighter, ranger, paladin, etc., etc., and then you have a kit, which you take a kit, stick it onto this class, and it gives a set of abilities that overrides certain things, gives bonuses and setbacks based on the kit, and all sorts of stuff like that. In the Al-Qadim core setting book, they list a large number of kits for each of the classes. I'm not going to go into all of these kits. They're basically any character you've seen in the Ray Harryhausen Sinbad movies matches one of these kits somehow. they're basically thematic and flavorful variations of the fighter, of the ranger, of the paladin, of the druid. Oh, sorry, druids aren't in this world. Yes, druids are not native to Zakhara. There is a kit that emulates them, sort of, but it's not quite the exact same thing. But each kit kind of has its role, kind of fits its niche. There's one kit, however, that could almost be its own class. And in fact, I generally consider it to be its own class, because it is such a departure from the wizard class that it really is its own thing. And that kit is the Sha'ir. Sha'irs deal with genie summoning and genie magics. The first thing a Sha'ir learns is how to summon a small elemental being, listed as a familiar, called a Gen, Gen. And the Gen goes out and finds the spells that the Sha'ir wants to cast. This is important. You see, the Sha'ir does not get to cast a spell from a big repertoire. What they get to do is they get to send a Gen out. It comes back in 1d6 plus 1 per level of the spell rounds. And it casts that spell one time. And then, for the Sha'ir to cast another spell, they have to send the Gen out to find that same spell again. And that's part of the problem. But there's a huge advantage to this. You see, first off, the Gen does not have a guaranteed chance of finding the spell. It starts with a base 50% chance to find the spell. Minus 10 per level of the spell. Plus 5 per level of the caster. Plus 10 if it's a general knowledge spell, i.e. a spell commonly known on Zakhara. And when you send the Gen out, you roll to see if it finds the spell. Or, a Game Master can roll when the Gen comes back. Because that's when the wizard knows whether the Gen found the spell or not. But there's some interesting factors here. First off, you can cast a spell. You can send the Gen out to cast a spell that you would not normally be able to cast if you were any other type of wizard. At first level, you have a 5% chance to cast a common knowledge 6th level spell. Yes, that means it might take the Gen 12 rounds to come back. Well, that's the price you have to pay. But that's an important thing, because it means you can cast more powerful spells than you would normally be able to cast. Getting a 2nd level spell at 1st level, That's a big deal. And there really are no limits to how many times you can send the gen out per day. It's just, it can only cast the spell one time, and it can only hold one spell. That is the downside of the Sha'ir. However, for taking a -30 chance, you can attempt to cast a priest spell. So, a Cure Light Wounds, or a Raise Dead, being cast by a wizard archetype. Of course, there's a peril. You see, the GM makes a percentage roll based on the level of the spell and the type of spell and how it aligns with the gen and all this. And if it succeeds, the deity aligned with that particular spell noticed and is displeased. Now, the effects of it could be something as simple as bad luck, or it can be the hand of fate turning against the wizard. The opponent's getting a bonus to hit the Sha'ir. Or, the god sends a messenger to go, bad wizard, no cookie. And, at the highest level of spells, it's the 7th and 8th level spells, the response to the god is, boop, pluck the Sha'ir out of the world and have a personal one-on-one talk with the offending mage. Yeah. Sha'irs are interesting in that they are a risky class to play. They have a lot that they can do, but they have some major limitations. But, that said and done, they can do a lot of other things beyond just cast those spells. They can recognize the work of genies. They can call upon a Jan for aid, the earth-based primaterial plane dwelling genie. They gain protection from the element associated with their Jan. Eventually, they can call upon the services of a genie. And then eventually, they can bind a genie into servitude. Yes. Their capstone ability is they can make a genie into a slave. Oh, but wait, that's not their capstone. That is just something they get along the way. They can imprison genies. They can get audiences with rulers of the genies. And they can travel through the ethereal plane to any elemental plane eventually. And that's all of those are big deals. And this is the thing. The Sha'ir are all about dealing with genies. They start off weak. they start off not able to do much. Eventually, however, as long as they make sure they're able to pay their bribes to the genies, they can do amazing and terrible things. Imagine, if you will, a group of bandits attacking a lone little wizard wandering the desert. And the wizard calls forth a Marid, or an Ifrit, more likely an Ifrit. And this big, fiery genie shows up to deal with these bandits for the poor little Sha'ir. Oh yes, he's going to get compensated. But the Sha'ir knew the risk calling one. And that's really the big detail for the Al-Qadim setting. Well, there's one other player option that's not a on-the-sheet player option. You know, sometimes really bad stuff happens. Sometimes you get locked in a prison cell where you're going to be executed the next morning. Sometimes you're trapped in a back alley with no way to climb up the wall and 100 angry people coming after you. And sometimes you're trapped in the middle of the desert, surrounded by a pride of hungry panthers. Don't ask what panthers are doing in the desert, it's just an example. Well, in those dangerous situations, you can call on fate. You have a 2% chance that fate will hear your call and do something. There are some priests who have a better chance, but for the most people it's just a 2% chance. And fate won't strike all the panthers dead. Fate won't make all the villagers who are after you turn away and run away. It won't blow the doors off the prison cell. It will technically give you a bonus. But from a GM perspective, it's a something happens that gives you a chance to get out of this unescapable situation. Maybe one of the panthers gets into a dominance struggle with one of the others. You can use that as a avenue to break out. Maybe one of the villagers hits something and a water pipe to a cistern falls down to give you a way to climb up to the wall top, if only you can just get to it. Maybe the guard falls asleep and drops his key, and if you can just get to that key ring somehow without waking the guard. Those are examples of what could happen. But with all that said, that is it for this video. Next week, I am going to talk about the Council of Worms setting. The setting where everyone plays a dragon. Until then, and until my regularly scheduled video, I just want you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.